Alright, so this is our presentation on the Donna Paz. This is by Rocco Calabrese, Chris Sullivan, Evan Hooper, and Ben Refresado. A quick overview on this project is the Donna Paz is a Philippine flag passenger ferry carrying approximately 4,000 people with the 1,500 passenger limit. It collided with an oil tanker, the MT Vector, which was carrying 1,041 tons of gasoline and petroleum products. This disaster was arguably one of the most impactful maritime incidents in the world, for out of 4,000 people, only 26 survived. A quick timeline on this incident was in the early morning hours, 20th of December 1987, the Philippine flag passenger ferry Donna Paz departed Tacloban Leyte Island for the Philippine capital of Manila. With a stopover at Catabalagan, Samar. The passenger reported the vessel was listed moored to one side. While the Dumali Point alongside Tablas Strait at 22:30, as most passengers were sleeping, the ferry collided with the oil tanker MT Vector. The tanker was en route from Bataan to Masbate, carrying 1,041 tons of gasoline and petroleum products. The initial collision occurred striking the port side of the Donna Paz, which ripped through the engine room and the main switchboard, causing a massive explosion and the ship to black out. The fire quickly spread throughout the vessel, causing many passengers to be lost and stuck in the lower decks. The passengers that made it to the main decks jumped off into the engulfed surface of the ocean as the vessel slowly submerged. The few remaining 26 passengers were rescued by the cargo vessel Don Claudio.
So a brief overview of rules and regulations. The Donna Paz was rated for 1,500 people. However, the vessel was overloaded with passengers due to the holiday season. It's also said by one survivor, military officer Luzgardo Nieto, he and about 1,000 other soldiers boarded last minute and therefore were not included in the ship's official manifest. It's also believed that about 1,000 children under the age of 4, as estimated by survivors, were also left off the manifest because they were too young. More specifically, Rule 2, Parts A and B, responsibility of the vessel. The crew on the Donna Paz was distracted, which left her in an improper watch lookout and watch standings. This caused a collision, which violates Rule 2 of coal regs, specifically that no vessel should be making a collision with other vessels, and the responsibility falls on the owner, master, and crew of the vessels. Rule 5, proper lookout. The crew on the Donna Paz was drinking, leaving an apprentice alone on the bridge. The crew was not standing a proper watch, which violated Rule 5 of coal regs. Every vessel shall have at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing, as well as by available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances. Rule 7B.
Rule 7B concerning the risk of collision is obviously one that they both violated because they did collide. Neither of these vessels were up to date with their inspections or their equipment. They had out-of-date radars, and both were considered not seaworthy because they did not have a valid certificate of inspection. The Donna Paz added decks after their last certificate of inspection, and both vessels had problems with their radio license. The Vector had an expired one, and the Donna Paz had a fake license. Just some more rules that they violated. So the Vector obviously had improper watch standing. They were severely understaffed, and their officers had insufficient licenses. The captain only had a second mate license, and the chief mate and chief engineer had no licenses at all. And they were both obviously unseaworthy because of their lack of COI and their radio license problems as well. And what they found in the investigations were So the Philippine Supreme Court found the owners of the tanker liable for reparations of those affected, mainly the families of the people that died. Both ships were found unseaworthy, like I said before, and they were operating without license or qualified masters. Nobody was on their posts aboard the Donna Paz at the time. Most of the officers were drunk, and only the apprentice was on the bridge, and no distress signal went out when they collided. This is all because of like lack of standards and faulty all the way from the top, and it's the reason why only 26 out of over 4,000 people survived.
So from this, we can find out who was at fault. So as said earlier, the courts ruled the owners of the Vector and the company were found liable for the ship being unseaworthy and operating without licenses and a proper lookout and qualified master. From this, we can see how Rule 2 plays into effect of how it can fall back onto the owners and master. So however, the Coast Guard found that the Donna Paz had an additional 2 decks added after its last inspection, meaning it was unseaworthy at the time. And in all, the tanker company was liable for all the compensations to the families affected from the incident. And the aftermath from this, so after this it led to new changes in rules and standard operating procedures, improved safety standards regarding passenger limitations and maintenance, and training across the entire industry, like mostly over Europe with their issues in passenger safety. And it was just an automatic wake-up call for a new focus on passenger safety and crew well-being to protect new companies. And then preventative measures, since it was a clear, visible night and calm seas, a proper watch standing should have been completed to avoid this incident, obviously. But where this crash took place in the Straits was easily to be avoided and for both ships to maneuver away, but because of lack of proper watch standing and obviously just negligence, this is why both ships went down. So how we would have prevented this incident, we would start by following regulations with passengers and their safety first, and then ensure the ship is inspected and seaworthy at all times, and also have licenses and proper lookouts on both vessels at all times. And then in the case of emergency, always follow proper procedures in case of an emergency. These are our references, and that concludes our case study.